In a moment that felt suspended in time, Julia stood before her community, trembling as she took her first steps, a miracle unfolding before their eyes. Once paralyzed by despair, she now radiated hope, surrounded by the outpouring of faith that united the village of Duas Igrejas. The echoes of prayers and whispered dreams ignited an energy so powerful it was palpable in the air. But to understand how this miraculous transformation began, we need to go back to the very roots of faith that sparked this incredible journey. You won't believe what happened next, but before we dive in, make sure to subscribe and tell us where you're watching from. In the quaint village of Duas Igrejas, nestled in the lush greenery of Braga, Portugal, the sun began to set, casting a warm golden hue over the charming homes and cobbled streets. Families were gathered, sharing stories, laughter, and sometimes sorrow, weaving a community tapestry that was as resilient as it was vibrant. Yet behind closed doors, many families faced silent battles, and none more so than Julia's family. Julia, only 9 years old, carried the weight of her recurrent paralysis with a grace that belied her age. It began as a curious tingling in her legs, then a debilitating loss of strength that left her confined to a wheelchair during the worst episodes. The laughter that once echoed from her home was now replaced with hushed whispers and anxious glances. Her parents, while maintaining a facade of hope, struggled to conceal their despair. The doctors had declared her condition chronic, an untreatable plight that would burden their daughter for life. As the camera pans over the village, capturing the essence of Duas Igrejas, the voice of José Esteves, the village catechist, resonates. His deep and comforting tones recap the history of their parish, the traditions they held dear, and the miracles that faith could foster even in the darkest times. People of Duas Igrejas, he spoke during Mass one bright Sunday, we are blessed, though many of us are suffering. Together we seek solace in prayer, in community, and in cherishing one another. It was during these moments when the community would gather to pray for their paradise of a village, that whispers about a relic of the Blessed Carlo Acutis began to swirl. The relic, once a simple piece of cloth, had taken on immense significance, believed to carry the sanctity and miracles of the young Italian saint known for his extraordinary faith and digital evangelization. Its arrival was met with wonder and curiosity, igniting a spark of hope in the hearts of the suffering. In the early days following the relic's arrival, a growing number of families began attending Mass, seeking intercession through Carlo Acutis. Conversations echoed through the narrow streets, filled with the tales of friends and neighbors who felt connected to the saint despite never having met him. The air was charged with a palpable sense of expectation, as parents spoke in hushed tones about miraculous healings that had taken place in far-flung places, igniting whispers of a chance for a miracle to visit their own village. At home, Julia sat in her wheelchair by the window, a picture of longing. Her mother noticed her gaze, often fixed on the stained glass window where sunlight streamed through, creating a cascade of colors on the floor. "Please, God, let me run and play again," she would silently plead. The rumors around the relic invaded her thoughts, infusing her heart with intrigue. Who was Carlo Acutis? What if he could help her? The week leading to the Corpus Christi Mass was one of anticipation. Julia's parents shared in her growing curiosity, grasping at a hope they had nearly abandoned. They began discussing the upcoming Mass and the relic, which would be the focal point of prayers for miracles. It was rare to witness such fervor from them, and Julia couldn't help but feel the magnetic pull of faith drawing her into its embrace. As news spread further through home-cooked meals and casual gatherings, the community began a bond over this newfound hope, each family united in belief that perhaps they could be touched by the miraculous. Rumors of spontaneous healings began to swirl, attracting even those who had been disenchanted with their faith. They came, skeptics with arms crossed, eager to observe but skeptical of the claims, yet with each passing moment they found themselves captivated by the infectious hope surrounding them. On the eve of the Corpus Christi celebration, the village buzzed with a nervous excitement. "Remember, it's not just about the relic," José Esteves reminded them at evening Mass, his eyes scanning the crowded church, "but our faith in what Carlo Acutis represents. Open your hearts and you may find a miracle in return." With the dim light of candles softly illuminating the intimate space, each flicker represented a prayer sent toward the heavens. Families clutched each other's hands, their spirits intertwined as they anticipated what tomorrow could bring. That night, as Julia lay fighting sleep, dreams filled her mind, a world where she danced freely among her friends, their laughter lighting up the night. She clung to the hope that dawn would come bearing new possibilities. For her family, the arrival of the relic marked not only a chance for healing, but a chance for renewal, unity, and the rekindling of their once unwavering faith. As the village slept, a collective wish hung in the air, a wish for healing, a wish for miracles, and an unspoken prayer that Carlo Acutis would listen. Whatever awaited them at the Mass, they would face together, standing strong as a community bound by their shared hopes. And in that moment of unity, hope ignited like the candles that flickered in the church, a radiant beacon in times of need. As the sun peeked over the horizon, bathing Duas Igrejas in a gentle morning light, the air was thick with anticipation. Families stirred from their slumber, eyes filled with hope as they prepared for the day that had the potential to rewrite their stories. Yet for Júlia, the struggles of daily life continued to loom like dark clouds, threatening to overshadow her aspirations. The paralysis, relentless in its grip, dictated her routines. Getting out of bed was a feat that required careful maneuvers in the steady hands of her parents. Her mother, with eyes lined by fatigue and worry, gently assisted Júlia, trying to mask her own fears with tender smiles. As Júlia looked at her reflection in the window, she saw a determined face staring back, but the deep-set shadows under her eyes betrayed the emotional and physical toll her condition had taken. At the kitchen table, her father sat with a furrowed brow, clutching a newspaper with stories of miraculous healings happening around the world, lifelines that seemed just out of reach. "Look, Júlia," he attempted, holding the paper up for her to see. "These people weren't much different from us. They had faith and it brought them hope." But Júlia's heart sank. She was aware that hope was sometimes a fragile tether amidst despair. Going to the hospital had become a somewhat predictable routine, filled with mundane and sterile environments. Medical professionals, though kind, spoke in clinical terms that felt foreign to Júlia's vibrant spirit. The procedures with needles and machines drained her energy, but she had her parents' unwavering support. They would hold her hand, whispering tales of miracles and saints, especially Carlo, who had captured their hearts. Each visit served as a reminder of her reality, a chronic condition that sought to confine her, much like the walls of the very hospital that enveloped her. The emotional weight of those hospital visits pressed heavily on Júlia's family. Her mother's voice often wavered as she discussed treatment options with the doctors, trying to remain strong while the uncertainty gnawed at her. Meanwhile, her father became a familiar face, pacing the sterile corridors, offering a weak smile to visitors and families in similar circumstances. Their quiet struggles resonated deeply with the community, binding them in shared pain. As the Corpus Christi Mass approached, a fervor swept through those mundane hospital days. The news of the relic had pulsated through the town, igniting hope against the backdrop of suffering. In that small, tight-knit community, discussions shifted from pessimism to possibilities. The church buzzed with prayers, and people hoped alongside Júlia's family. On one occasion, as they returned home, Júlia's heart tightened with longing when she saw the local children playing joyfully in the grass. She watched the girls skipping rope, their laughter a melody of innocent freedom that she desperately craved. If only, she whispered to herself, a dream of joining them bursting inside like a bright balloon just above reach. Days melted into nights, and the rituals of prayer began to weave a fabric of solidarity in Duas Igrejas. José Esteves organized prayer groups where villagers gathered every evening to intercede for those in need. Inside the small church, voices blended into a harmonious request, echoing against the friable stone walls. "We must lift one another just as Carlo Acutis did," he would remind them. His words resonated, urging families to unite their intentions and hopes, placing their trust in the relic they had come to revere. Júlia's spirit began to swell with anticipation as she learned more about Carlo Acutis. Filled with stories of his compassion and love for the Eucharist, Júlia found an unexpected friend in the saint. She pictured him as a young boy just like her, navigating the intricacies of life with laughter, kindness, and an unwavering faith. Each tale added to the wellspring of hope within her. What if she too could draw strength from his legacy? Duas Igrejas transformed almost overnight. The fervent prayers and tireless discussions brought forth an undeniable energy, a determination to battle the hardships that had become so familiar. Families who had once remained silent in their suffering began to speak out, sharing their experiences and insights, bolstering each other's resolve. On the eve of the Corpus Christi Mass, the church brimmed with activity. Banners were unfurled, adorned with images of celestial figures, and the aroma of incense floated through the air as parishioners lit candles in the chapel, swaying to their prayers. It was in this united sea of faith that Júlia's heart began to expand with a sensation she had not felt in quite some time, hope blooming like the flowers in spring. In quiet moments of reflection, when the village still lay hushed after evening mass, a powerful thought gripped Júlia's mind. What if the very relic that they were preparing to honor was a bridge to her healing? Each whisper of prayer seemed to carry a note of possibility, igniting her imagination of one day transitioning from her wheelchair to dancing feet. She clutched the fabric of her dress to her heart, nearly trembling with excitement. Yet as quickly as hope surged, doubt slipped in. Would she truly be worthy of such a miracle? Her young mind wrestled with questions that echoed in the silence of her sleepless nights. The following day brought forth the dawn of a momentous event, one that would unite the village and transform their faith into tangible shapes. As families made their way to the church hand in hand, their footsteps resonated in an unbroken rhythm of prayer and belief. In their hearts they held the essence of collective longing, eager for miracles to unfold not only for Júlia, but for all those who silently carried burdens. In the midst of struggle, they had found language in each other's pain and joy, culminating in a community poised to witness the miracles that faith could conjure. The air crackled with the anticipation of turning what seemed impossible into a new dawn of hope. The golden beams of the morning sun spilled across the cobblestone streets of Duas Igrejas, illuminating the quaint village in a vibrant glow. Today was the day of the Corpus Christi Mass, a hallmark of faith for the community and a day of hope for Júlia and her family. The air buzzed with excitement, prayers whispered between neighbors, and the scent of freshly baked bread wafted through open windows, mingling with the fragrance of blooming wildflowers. Júlia nestled in her wheelchair at the threshold of her home, her heart racing with anticipation. Her mother adjusted the ribbon in her hair, crafting a small bun from the soft curls, while her father gathered the family's belongings for the day. "They could be special, little star," her father gently reminded her, handing her a small icon of Carlo Acutis that had become her talisman of faith. She felt a rush of warmth with his words, a fusion of excitement and anxiety bubbled within her. As they made their way to the church, Júlia couldn't help but absorb the atmosphere around her. The village was a tapestry of vibrant colors and sounds, families adorned in their Sunday best, little children with freshly picked flowers in their hands, clinging to their parents with wide, innocent eyes. Each step closer to the church felt like a step towards possibility, and with a deep breath she surrendered herself to the current of hope that surrounded her. Inside the church, the atmosphere pulsed with energy. Its wooden beams and stained glass windows glowed like jewels in the bright light. The congregants were buzzing with whispers, telling stories of faith as they gathered before the altar, where the relic of Carlo Acutis was displayed, beautifully draped in fine cloth. The relic, a symbol of miracles and grace, seemed to emanate a quiet power that enveloped the room. As the Mass began, José Esteve stood at the forefront, his voice resonating through the space, inviting the community to immerse themselves in prayer and reflection. "Today we come together to celebrate not just our faith but our shared journey as a community," he began with fervor, "to seek healing, to find strength, and to open our hearts to the miraculous." Julia's heart soared at his words, feeling a deep connection to everyone in the pews around her. With each hymn sung, Júlia closed her eyes, envisioning herself running alongside her friends, free from limitations, laughter echoing in the air. The music filled her soul, flowing into the spaces of doubt and fear, twining like vines around her heart and lifting her spirit. She watched as her parents joined hands in prayer, their faces illuminated by faith and hope, and felt their love wrapping around her like an invisible shield. The moment finally arrived when the relic was brought forth to the altar, honoring the procession of faith as villagers stepped forward one by one to touch the holy object. The ambience in the church shifted to a sacred hush, as if the very walls were listening intently. When it was Julia's turn, her heart raced and her breath hitched. This was the moment she had dreamed of. With her father's help, she inched closer to the altar. The community encircled her, their collective faith palpable, their eyes radiating trust in the miracle to come. The warmth of the relic's presence embraced her, and as her fingers brushed against the fabric, she closed her eyes tight, offering a fervent prayer that expressed the depth of her longing. "Carlo, if you can hear me," she murmured, fighting back tears, "please help me heal. I want to be free." Every ounce of hope and belief she possessed flowed into that moment, melding with the fervent prayers of the onlookers. The congregation refrained from breath, a powerful silence settling over them. In that instant, an electric charge of faith ignited the air, bringing a sense of possibility. Júlia felt a surge within her, an energy that coursed through her like never before. A connection, unseen yet unmistakably real, formed between Júlia and the spirit of Carlo Acutis. It felt as if he extended his hand toward her, inviting her to take a leap of faith. She opened her eyes slowly, heart racing, filled with a sense of peace that enveloped her like a warm light. The Mass continued, the energy palpable, prayers rising like incense to the heavens. Júlia and her mother held onto each other tightly, and when the congregation sang the final hymn, a crescendo of emotion swept through them, hearts swelling in unity. Laughter and joy broke through the heavy air that had weighed on them for so long, and they could feel a collective heartbeat among the people of Duas Igrejas, a sacred community unified in their belief. Once the Mass concluded, the people remained in close proximity, sharing stories filled with laughter, hopes, and good wishes. Julia's parents knelt beside her, their hands linked together in prayer, while murmurs of hope clung to the walls of the church. She caught sight of her father exchanging smiles with other parents, and her mother was animatedly chatting with fellow parishioners, all of them rejuvenated by the experience. As Júlia observed her idyllic surroundings, she began to wonder if this precise moment had invigorated the spirits of everyone in attendance. An unspoken camaraderie replaced the previous despair, a palpable bond forged through shared faith. Her heart passed notes of gratitude to the heavens, overflowing with love for her parents and the community that had rallied around them. The people began to disperse, and Julia's family lingered a little longer, as she felt the rumors circulating among the families within the church, stories of healings, significant encounters with Carlo Acutis, and miracles coming to life. Their conversations brimmed with enthusiasm about the possibilities that could arise from today's encounter with the relic. The air crackled with electric anticipation, it lingered in every breath. The villagers exchanged thoughtful glances, some wiping tears of joy from their cheeks, while others simply stood in awe, knowing somehow that their faith and unity were transforming their hopes into living fabric. As Julia and her family made their way home, laughter streamed down from the church into the streets, finally seeping into her heart. Today was more than a ceremony. It symbolized a turning point not just for her, but for the entire village, culminating in rebirth. With the weight of her wheelchair no longer feeling burdensome, Julia found strength in her community, in the connections made, realizing that together they had nurtured a seed of faith that could grow into something extraordinarily beautiful. Today had melted the shadows of doubt, instilling a belief that miracles could indeed unfold. Little did she know that the next chapter of their story was about to be written, one filled with hope and transformation fueled by faith. In the days that followed the Corpus Christi Mass, the atmosphere in Duas Igrejas transformed into a bubbling cauldron of expectation. News of the relic and the miraculous hope it had ignited spurred changes that rippled through the community. As families gathered to share stories, their conversations brimmed with possibility, and a palpable thrum of anticipation united them. On a bright morning, Julia awoke to the cheerful chirping of birds outside her window. The sun streamed through the curtains, bathing her room in a gentle glow. Something felt different today, something electric that sent a thrill down her spine. It was as if the world had shifted slightly, turned on its axis just for her. Her mother entered the room, a serene smile gracing her face as she brushed a strand of hair away from Julia's forehead. "Are you ready for today, my little star?" her mother asked softly, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Today marked another gathering at the church, an opportunity for the community to come together and share further testimonies while honoring Carlo Acutis. Rumors had begun to circulate about miraculous occurrences, tales of transformation that were weaving their way through the village, binding every heart in shared hope. Julia clutched the small icon of Carlo tightly as she nodded enthusiastically, determination radiating from her very core. As they walked towards the church, Julia's eyes sparkled with anticipation. The streets were alive with activity. Families greeted one another with genuine warmth, sharing tidbits about personal encounters with the spirit of Carlo. She felt a connection to every story that came her way, each a thread of the community's collective tapestry. Upon arriving, Julia marveled at the sight before her. The church was adorned with beautiful floral arrangements, and candles flickered warmly, casting dancing shadows on the walls. A vibrant banner hung above the altar, proclaiming the saint's name proudly. Inside, there was a hushed energy, a feeling that today could be filled with divine encounters. José Esteves welcomed everyone with open arms, his voice resonating soothingly as he introduced the event. "Dear friends, we gather today not only to honor Carlo Acutis, but to celebrate the miracles that his intercession has sparked among us. We are testimonies of hope emerging from darkness, fueled by faith." His words resonated in the sacred space, invoking a sense of unity that enveloped Julia like a comforting embrace. As the service unfolded, Julia felt strengthened by her surroundings. The vibrant choir harmonized beautifully, and community members lit candles, offering prayers that ascended to the heavens. The atmosphere thickened with sacred possibility. When it was time for the sharing of testimonies, a hush fell over the crowd. One by one, families stood, voicing their experiences and sharing their blessings. An elderly woman spoke of her miraculous healing from a chronic ailment, recounting how she felt the warmth of Carlo's presence while holding the relic. A mother tearfully shared how her son, who had been bedridden, suddenly began to walk again after his heartfelt plea during the last Mass. Each story swelled the hearts of those listening, planting seeds of belief and deepening their resolve. Finally, it was Julia's turn, the moment she had both yearned for and feared. As she approached the edge of the gathering, her hands trembled, not from fear, but from a swell of faith and hope. The congregation watched with rapt attention, each gaze encouraging her, as if charging her with their collective belief. Taking a deep breath, Julia began, her voice quivering at first but gradually gaining strength. "I am Julia," she introduced herself, her gaze connecting with those around her, "and I have struggled with paralysis. Every day has been a battle for me and my family, a longing for healing that felt unreachable." The room hung on her words as she continued, "But after touching Carlo's relic, something shifted within me. For the first time, I felt a flicker of true faith, a desire to believe in miracles. I felt warmth in my legs where there had only been numbness. Gasps erupted from the crowd, and a murmur of encouragement surged through the attendees. I know I'm still in my wheelchair, she pressed on, but I can feel something awakening inside me, a light that overpoweringly whispers that I will walk again. The audience shifted, excitement electrifying the air, hope soaring with each of her words. With a nervous smile, she concluded, I believe that Carlo is here with us today, and that we are all worthy of miracles. As she returned to her place beside her parents, the church erupted into enthusiastic applause. Julia's heart swelled with emotion, and she could see tears glistening in the eyes of her mother and father. The service culminated in a powerful time of prayer, inviting everyone to gather around the altar. As Julia rested her hands on the altar, she felt an overwhelming presence envelope her, love, acceptance, and faith intertwined in a single, breathtaking moment. The community's prayers filled her ears like a symphony. With every whispered entreaty, her heart began to soar. It was a moment not just of personal hope, but of shared faith, evident in the prayers lifted for one another. At that moment, Julia's resolve strengthened. She closed her eyes tightly and spoke aloud in her heart, Carlo, I trust in you, I believe. It was the final push she needed, a leap of faith encapsulated in that blessed moment. Days passed and the aura of miracles continued to circulate through the village. News of Julia's testimony inspired awareness and revived spirits within the community. Families began to hold regular prayer meetings, where they would gather to speak about their struggles and victories, reinforcing one another's faith. Each evening became a celebration of unity, interspersed with laughter, stories, and prayers, a testament that showed them they were no longer isolated in their suffering. Instead, they had collectively embarked on a journey of hope that linked their stories in ways they had never imagined possible. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, taking its colorful hues with it, Julia sat surrounded by neighbors sharing their stories, laughter echoing through the cool air. She felt a tingling warmth creeping through her legs, a gentle reminder of the faith she had set in motion. Among the laughter and love, she caught sight of her mother's radiant smile and her father's proud gaze, illuminating her heart. It was all a manifestation of hope, the beauty of community, and the belief that miracles awaited just around the corner. With every bold prayer spoken and every flickering candle lit, she found herself one step closer to the miraculous journey that awaited her ahead, a beautiful tapestry woven by faith, love, and community, with Carlo Acutis watching over them all. As days turned into weeks, the village of Duas Igrejas continued to flourish under the weight of shared hope and community spirit. Rumors of miracles rippled through the streets, igniting conversations and inspiring many to reflect on their faith. Julia's story had transformed from a solitary struggle to a beacon of collective courage, illuminating the hearts of her neighbors. One sun-drenched afternoon, Julia sat outside, the gentle breeze lifting her spirits as she basked in the warmth of the sun. Her mother and father were busy tending to the colorful flower beds, the vibrant blooms standing as a testament to love and care. A sense of calm enveloped Julia, and the familiar tingling sensation in her legs began to surge greater than before. It was as if the warmth was shifting inside her, becoming something more profound. With each passing moment, the feeling intensified. It wasn't just a physical sensation, it felt like a whisper from the divine, stirring her heart and awakening her spirit. Unable to contain her excitement, she called out to her parents, Mom, Dad, come here. Her mother dropped her trowel, her heart racing as she hurried to Julia's side, her father close behind. What's wrong, darling? Her mother asked, concern knitting her brow. I don't know, Julia exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with wonder. I can feel something in my legs, I think I can feel more than I ever have. Her parents shared a moment of disbelief, gazing at each other with wide eyes. It felt surreal, too extraordinary to be real. Could this be the miracle they had all been waiting for? Julia, are you sure? Her father asked cautiously, his voice trembling with hope. I think I want to try, she insisted, her heart racing with determination. They exchanged quick, encouraging glances, understanding the significance of this moment. With gratitude mixed with nervousness, they helped her transition from the comforting embrace of her wheelchair to try to stand. The support of her loving parents gave her strength. As Julia stood, the world around her faded, narrowing down to the feeling of her feet against the earth. Her body trembled as she found her balance, her heart thundering in her chest. It was a delicate equilibrium, but there was a fierce desire to conquer the challenge ahead. I can do this, she repeated softly to herself, her voice filled with fierce determination. With hesitant steps, she took a breath and shifted her weight, attempting to put one foot in front of the other. It was a struggle, yet with every push and every step, something astonishing began to unfold. The tingling warmth coursed through her legs, and before she knew it, joy erupted from within. Her first step led to another, and then another. "Look at her, she's walking," her mother cried out, tears streaming down her cheeks. Her father stood speechless, a wide grin breaking through his initial disbelief. Júlia moved one foot in front of the other, feeling stronger by the second, an endless sense of liberation rising within her. The exhilaration swept over her completely. She was taking steps, real steps, propelled by reckless faith and the loving support of her family. Eventually, she broke into a joyous laugh, weaving between her parents as they cheered her on. "Carlo, thank you," she shouted, her voice ringing out in celebration. Her parents enveloped her in a tight embrace, laughter mingling with tears as they celebrated the miracle unfolding before them. In that moment, the weight of their worries began to lift, replaced by an overwhelming sense of awe and gratitude. It was as if they had collectively shed their burdens, Júlia's struggle now beautifully transformed into a story of triumph. Word of Júlia's miraculous strides flooded the village, and the news spread like wildfire. The community was summoned to gather in prayer and thanksgiving at the church, and spirits surged with excitement as they prepared for a celebration of miracles. On the day of the gathering, the church filled with the vibrant laughter of children and the warm embraces of families. The energy in the air crackled with anticipation, a palpable reminder of faith brought to life. As people settled, José Esteves began the service, welcoming each soul with open arms. "Today, we honor the miracle unfolding right before our eyes," he proclaimed, his eyes shining with pride. "Júlia's story is a testament to the strength of our community and our unwavering belief in the power of faith." As Júlia stood at the front of the church, the congregation erupted into applause, tears of joy streaming down faces as they realized the depth of the miracle they had witnessed. She could feel the every eye upon her, love pouring forth from the hearts of her neighbors, friends, and family. "Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your prayers and for believing with me." Júlia's voice rang out, filled with pure delight and gratitude. "I know I am not just walking for myself, I am walking for all of us. Together we can overcome anything." The applause crescendoed into a symphony of love, however each sound became a gentle reminder of the journey they had shared. In that moment, under the bright stained glass windows and the soft flickering of candlelight, the community transformed into a living testament of faith, an embodiment of the miracles born from connection, love, and belief. As prayers filled the church, Júlia felt an energy radiate from within her. It was not merely a personal healing, but a shared victory over suffering. The gratitude and joy of the villagers resonated as a chorus of hope, stitching together the lives of each person in attendance. Now standing on the solid ground of possibility, Júlia understood that she was not alone. Just as Carlo Acutis had inspired her, she felt empowered to serve as a beacon of faith for others. The testimony of her miraculous journey would continue to encourage others to believe, sparking newfound hope in hearts still shrouded in doubt. Together they had stepped into a new world, a realm where obstacles could morph into stepping stones, and miracles unfolded amidst the power of faith and unity. It was just the beginning of a beautiful tapestry they would weave together, one threaded deep with love, resilience, and the magic of belief. As Duas Igrejas settled into a new rhythm, the impact of Júlia's miraculous healing continued to resonate throughout the village. The air was thick with promise and possibility, each sunset heralding new stories, new testimonies, and newfound hope. The church became a sanctuary not just for prayers, but for the community's shared aspirations. Júlia was often seen in the days that followed, a regular presence at the church, her laughter spilling into the corridors. She often led the children in games, each giggle a pledge of faith in their own potential for miracles. Her parents beamed with pride, the worry lines on their faces faded, replaced by smiles that reflected the joy surrounding them. They shared their journey openly now, recounting how they gathered strength from each other, the community, and their faith. On a chilly evening, the church hosted a special mass dedicated to honoring the transformation within the village. As the familiar faces gathered, filled with smiles and warmth, the atmosphere resonated with love. The lit candles emitted a soft glow, illuminating the expressions of hope that adorned every face. José Esteves stood at the front, ready to guide the evening's reflections. "Tonight, we gather not just to celebrate Júlia's healing, but the unity that has blossomed in our hearts and in this village," José began, his voice steady yet buoyant with emotion. "Let us remember the power of faith and the miracle it can yield." As the service unfolded, stories poured forth like an overflowing wellspring. Family after family expressed deep gratitude, not only for restored health, but for the emotional sustenance provided by a community that came together to lift one another in prayer and vulnerability. Each testimony echoed the truth that their strongest weapon against despair lay in their collective faith. Finally, it was Julia's turn to speak again. Standing before the congregation, she felt the familiar thrill of both excitement and nervousness. "I am so grateful to each of you for believing with me," she began, her voice ringing clear and true. "When I was alone in the darkness, you all became my light." She paused, tapping into the memories of her struggles, and then continued, "Every prayer, every candle lit, every kind word, you carried me. You taught me that miracles happen when we come together in faith." There was a palpable energy in the room. She could see tears glistening in the eyes of many as her words took root. "I stand here today not just to share my story, but to honor the courage of each person who has faced their own battles. We are all miracles in progress." The congregation erupted into applause, affirming her strength and the power of their journey. Moments later, families began coming forward, unified in their desire to share how they had endured and overcome their own struggles. Each delayed story unfolded as a precious thread that intertwined with Julia's, contributing to the rich fabric of their shared experience. In light of their stories, the church took on a deeper meaning in Duas Igrejas. It became a living testament to resilience, where stumbling blocks became stepping stones. Each tale shared was a proclamation, a reminder that faith was fertile ground where dreams were cultivated and nurtured. The vibrancy of these gatherings not only reignited individual faith, but also encouraged community members to dive deeper into shared traditions. They organized monthly prayer nights, where the church filled with the soft hum of collective voices harmonizing in prayer, an anthem of hope laced with love for one another. As winter approached, the village prepared for a season of reflection, gathering to light the Advent candles and marking the passage of time with joyful anticipation. A new annual festival was born, celebrating the miracle of community and faith that had blossomed from Julia's journey. Each light that flickered in the cold winter nights became a beacon, symbolizing the warmth that faith kindled in their lives. The festival echoed through the village, embracing not just the miracles they experienced, but the collective strength they found through their bonds. With each passing event, it became clear that the miracle of Julia's healing was just a chapter in a much larger story, a story of connection, of shared faith, of lifting one another in extraordinary ways. The lessons they learned stretched far and wide, reverberating through the village and beyond. Through her bravery and the collective response of the community, Duas Igrejas transformed into a living testament to faith's power. It became a sanctuary where doubt crumbled and hope flourished, creating a legacy that would echo through generations. And so, under the watchful eyes of Carlo Acutis and their entwined spirits, they stepped forth, not just as individuals, but as a harmonious ensemble. A melody of miracles sung across a landscape woven with love, anchoring their lives in faith, forging a future rich with possibility. Through their unity, they ignited the sparks of miracles waiting to unfold in the hearts of all who dared to believe. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left. Thanks for watching.